Good morning, everyone, and I'm here for 4th of July. We're going to have a nice little luncheon after church, and I just want to wish all of you a warm and a wonderful 4th of July. Just before I started sharing here, we sang Lee Greenwood's God Bless the USA. We all got together, and we have a wonderful family here. I'm so grateful for our church family, and it's so good to see many of you here today. We have a lot of people out of town. But the rest of us are here, and we're going to celebrate today. I want to take an opportunity to honor God by honoring our country. I do believe with all my heart this is a country that was initially designed by God to be a Christian country, to be a light to the world, to encourage people to come to their highest and to their best, and to allow the levels of freedom that would take. Sometimes when you have so much freedom, you don't realize you even have it. And you can misuse it. And you can misunderstand it. A lot of people, they're talking about the government doing more and more for them. When you let the government own everything, it'll start owning everything. It really will. I don't want to be under a type of government that owns all the businesses, that owns all of the music and all of the movies and all of the schools and all of the real estate. I just don't. I want the freedom to be able to choose, and that's what we have here. But if you're going to choose things, you need to choose some good decisions too. We have a lot of people that choose to drop out of school, then they don't have the skills that are needed to be able to sustain their own lives. They get into sex, alcohol, and drugs, and their lives are ruined, and then they wonder why I'm not a success. Then they point their finger and blame everybody else. Well, we need to be careful. That's not a Christian ethic. A Christian ethic is to work hard. God said the man that doesn't provide for his family is worse than an infidel. He said the man that doesn't work, doesn't he? I mean, these are principles of pull yourself up by your bootstrap. They're principles of take care of yourself and your own. Now, those that are disabled or unable, the Christian heart is able to help them. A man is thirsty, you give him a drink. A man needs a coat, you give him one of yours. But for someone who's totally able to do it, but just sits back and doesn't because he wants someone else to do it for him, that's against all of the ethics of God. It actually causes generations to sit down and do nothing, become non-productive, to be takers instead of givers. God said to be givers, to be producers. And that's the ethic that I want to talk about. We are a Christian nation. Others have said we are not. It is not true. We are a Christian nation. We are founded on Christian principles. But you don't have to be Christian to live here. That's what freedom's all about. But to throw away our founding principles for a free-for-all, for do anything, anytime, anyplace, anywhere with anyone, is not what our founding fathers talked about 245 some years ago. But I do want to talk about honoring God by honoring our country. But I do want to honor those who have served. And there are some people here with us today. And Drew has served in the military, and he was in the Army, and so was his dear wife, Lisa. Pastor Mark was in the Air Force. I was in the Air Force. Shirley was in the Air Force. We have quite a few. Brian, did you ever serve in the military?
No.
Okay. You look like a command sergeant major is what you look like. So, but anyways, so we have a number of our people here, and many others that aren't here right now. Carlos, he was in the Navy. I mean, just you can go on and on and on. Many of our good people have served valiantly in our nation. And why do we have a military? To protect our nation. We do have adversaries. I mean, you guys, I wasn't in World War II. I wasn't even born. But our country has defended other countries and our own against people that want to destroy us. And you guys aren't, some of our young people here today aren't old enough to remember 9/11, but that was an actual attack on our country when they bombed the Twin Towers in New York. They flew the planes into them, which was just like using a bomb, to destroy us. It was an effort to stop us from being who we are, to have us come under a very dominant type of society where the women can't drive and the women can't wear the clothing they want and the women can't go to school. Wow, that's how it is in some other countries. You don't get a chance to do anything depending on who you are, depending on what religion you are. You can't be a Christian in some countries. You'd be shot. Wow. See, I don't want our country to change that. I want to have the freedom to go to the schools that I want to. Some people are complaining they can't go to Harvard because they can't afford it. I know, neither can I. Go to the school you can afford. Hello? Buy the house you can afford. You want more, work more. You have to make better decisions to have better things. And this is something that we just really need to understand. The 4th of July is a great celebration of the birth of a great nation. And I'm not just talking about nationalism, like, rah, rah, sis, boom, bah, we're better than anybody else. I'm talking about the principles that this nation was founded on. If we lived by the principles, then we wouldn't have some of the problems we have. But because we have the freedom, we have freedom to solve the problems also. But when people come against, if someone just disagrees with me, they call me a hater and a bigot. Wait a minute, wait. Don't go there. Don't divide us. We need to hear from everybody. We need to put together the best solution. The best leaders put everyone together and find the best solution. Sometimes in Washington, D.C., our leaders today and over the past number of years, they only come up with things that are going to get them reelected. I don't like that. You vote for me, and I'll give you free housing and free rent and free clothing and free college and baloney. Who's going to pay for that? The government has no money. The government gets the money that we get from taxes. So we've got a system that's free, but I don't want to have it as a burden. We need to each be working. We need to each be working hard. We need to be having a vision and a mission, someplace to go, but always being aware of helping those that are in need, not those that are just sitting around saying, I need, I want. If you're young and you're healthy, you need to be out there working. I grew up, the rule was, you need more money, you work more hours. Right? Pretty simple. At age 15, I had 3 part-time jobs in the summer to pay my way to nursing school. I didn't have somebody else saying, I'll give it to you for free. When you get something for free, you don't respect that as much as if you had to pay for something and take care of it. And I give you an example. When you rent a car, yeah, you spill soda in it and you throw sandwich. You don't care. You're going to turn that car back in. That isn't yours. But you pay a whole bunch of money for that car, for that gas, for that insurance. You say, hey, you can't drink in my car. No, you can't spill this in my car. Wipe your feet before you get in my car. You see, you have some respect because you have to pay for that thing. You don't want to leave the water running if you're paying for the water bill. You don't want to have 5-hour showers if you're paying for the water bill. You don't want to leave the lights on if you're paying for the electric bill. You don't want to keep losing phones if you're paying for the phone. You see what I'm saying? When you're invested in the thing, and that's what a free market system is, you're invested in it. You own it. It's a good sense. Oh, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Now, you can end up starting a business and thriving, and then something happened like COVID-19 or something, and you lose your whole business. Or you have an economic downturn all over the world, you'll lose your business. In this country, you can start all over again. You can get going. You can make those phone calls. You can hire people. You can rent a building. You can do whatever you need. Sometimes we teach our young people it's bad to be rich. I go, no, it's good to be rich. I hope you all get to be billionaires. But when you're a billionaire, you build a daycare center at your factory. You pay your workers $50 an hour in good medical and dental, not the government. The government doesn't do it. You pour money in there and it goes to this friend and that contractor and this thing. It gets lost. When you have it, you're going to do something. When you get to keep as much money as possible instead of giving it to the government, you can do an awful lot with it. But if you grow up, me, I want, very selfish stuff that's coming up in our culture, no. I hope you get to have enough money to be extremely comfortable that you can help yourself and others. Very, very important. We do celebrate our troops that care for us, that guard us and guide us. And I'm grateful for that. I've worked for many years in the military. I was 11 years in the Air Force. I had 2 tours of duty in Vietnam as a nurse. I've seen the cost of this freedom. We went to Vietnam to stop the spread of communism, not just for some military thing. Communism is a way that the government controls everything. There's a few at the top called the Politburo. There is no middle class, and there's only the peasants on the bottom. They control everything. They're elite. Their ideas, what they want. They live in the houses, they have the cars, the gas, the steak, everything. You got nothing down here. It was a false premise that you take everything and put it and then just give it out to the common good. Well, that didn't work because the ones who got the first dibs on the money and the equipment were the guys at the top. And it turned out that the people down at the bottom still lived in poverty. I don't want that. We have poverty in our country, but no one ever asks why someone's poor. If you get $300 and you don't put it towards your rent, but you spend it on a Nintendo or something, then that's why you're poor. If you're paralyzed from the waist down and can't walk, then that's why you're poor. Well, then I want to help you. The guy in the wheelchair, I want to pay for his apartment and electricity and cable and all of his medical. Yeah, but not for the one that just is sitting around doing nothing. No, we need to have the right idea. We need to help and encourage people. Go out and get a life. You can do it here. In other countries, you can't. In India, they have a caste system. They put a little color on your head depending on where you are. You can't live anywhere but in the slums if you're born in the slums. There is no way out. You live in the slums, you die in the slums.
That's right.
In this country, we have many a story of someone born into the slums and poverty and ended up rising to be the top of a company, the CEO of a company. Golly. To be a general in the military. Wow. You can do it in this country. In other countries, you are not allowed. That's why we have a military. They have fought for this freedom. Like I said, we went to Vietnam because North Vietnam was communist. South Vietnam wasn't. And the North actually invaded the South. And the South didn't have a big army. They didn't have anyone to help them. They called out to who? They didn't call out to France. They didn't call out to Zimbabwe. They called out to the United States of America. Please come and help us. Well, it was worse than we thought. We did. We tried. It didn't work because they ran it from Washington, D.C. and just decided to stop. We didn't defeat an enemy. We just left. You just have to be so careful. Right now, in our own country, some people are disputing the greatness of our country. I challenge you to open your eyes to a broader vision, to see what's going on, to reflect on a moment. Those listening in, I want you to reflect on a moment who we really are as Americans. Did you know that as you walk up the steps of the U.S. Supreme Court building, you can see near the top of the building, and I've been there, I've seen it, a row of the world's lawgivers, each facing a central figure, and that figure is Moses holding the Ten Commandments. And as you enter the Supreme Court courtroom, the 2 huge oak doors have 10 Commandments engraved on each door. We were started as a Christian country. It talks about honoring God. It talks about obeying your mother and your father. It talks about not lying. It talks about not murdering. And I challenge you, if you don't like the first 4 that talk about God, at least do the last 6. The whole world will change because there'll be no stealing, no lying, no adultery. Oh my gosh. Now, if you don't do the first 4, you're not going to be able to be with the Lord. That's your business. That's your choice. Even He gave you freedom of choice. But I'm just saying, we have so many Christian components of this country and people are trying to lie about it. And our young people don't know this. We need to stand up and tell them, which is what I'm talking about today. I'm not going rah, rah, sis, boom, bah, USA. This is a wonderful country, and as it has its problems, we have worked out every single one of them. You may not have realized it, but here in the South, I grew up in the North, we didn't have segregation in the South. In the South, 75 years ago, you would have to sit in the back of the bus based on the color of your skin. You couldn't eat in a certain restaurant. How awful was that? Well, guess what? We had people rise up that came against that, and it made the change. It didn't stop the awfulness of what happened, but it changed it right then so that doesn't happen. Are there still people that don't like me because I'm white, or don't like you because you're black, or don't like you because you're Spanish? Of course, but they're idiots. Walk past them. Pray for them. God help those people. Don't let them affect who you are. They are not who this country is and what we represent. As you sit inside that same courtroom, you can see on the wall, right above where the Supreme Court judges sit, another display of the 10 Commandments. In most courtrooms, there were 10 Commandments. They've all been removed. Prayers out of school, Bible readings out of school, 10 Commandments are taken off the wall. And guess what's happening? Crime is rising, unwed mothers are rising, drug and alcohol abuse are rising. You see, God in you is a stopgap to that. His Spirit in you will never lead you to sin. It'll never lead. You have the Adam nature. See, now don't forget, you're born with the Adam nature, which is broken. It's separate from God. It happened because of what Adam did, not because of what you did, but you're born with it. We're Adam's crack babies. He did the problem. We ended up with the disability. If you die with that disability, you're unclean. You can't be in heaven. You can't be with God. It's not a punishment. It's a choice you make. God says you choose Him. You're going to come under His righteousness. He's going to forgive you. You're going to be clean. And He'll help you as you stumbly-bumbly through the rest of this life. Without God's Spirit in you, you're doomed to only the broken thinker, the broken wanter, and the broken feeler. And that's what's happening here. That broken thinker, wanter, and feeler threw God out. That broken thinker, wanter, and feeler kills babies with abortions. That broken thinker, wanter, and feeler is changing everything about family structure, government, Hollywood. Every single thing we have is changing it downward, not upward. God said, bring it up, bring it up, bring it up. That old devil goes, no, down, down, down. Wow. These young people do not realize the nudity, the crudity, the violence. We did not have that when I was growing up. Our own society stopped it. Movies were made without curse words, without nudity, and without that rampant violence. And our kids don't know that. I was at a light a few months ago. Car pulls up beside me, full of a bunch of young men. Windows roll down. The song on the radio is, do you ho, do you ho, do you ho. What? That's filling your heart. Pornography at a click. You're seeing the most vile, disgusting, degrading things. And yet it's erotic. It stirs you. Pornography, they say, has the same effect on your brain as cocaine. You will be addicted to it. I'm dealing with people already as a pastor. They are determined to not be in that, and the only thing that's going to help them is a commitment to the living God, to have Jesus Christ forgive you, and His Spirit to come and live in you. This is what we're talking about in this country. The young ones do not know the massive change. I have seen a cultural change because I'm an old dog. They have only been around 14, 15 years maybe. This is all they've ever known. The filth in the movies, the filth on the videos, the filth in the music. That's all they've ever known. You drive down Dale Mabry, those billboards, some of them look like the centerfold of a 1950s Playboy, with the nudity and the garbage and the sensuality. Our young people are born into a sexual sewer. Instead of finding out men and women that love each other and care for each other and hold themselves back in sexual purity. God's not trying to stop anyone's fun. But if our young people don't have sex with each other, guess what? There's no diseases that are spread. There's no babies that are born unwanted. Babies need to be born into a home. You need to have some place. You need clothing and food and in our area, air conditioning. And up north, you need heat. You need transportation and car and food and insurance and extras. The devil doesn't want you to have that. That will make you solid and secure in the Lord. You have that God as your center. God is the center in the family, praying before school, after school, praying before your meals, praying before you make decisions, praying about where you go and where you come. Our country grew up like that. There's always people who haven't done that. But they've always been on the edges of our society and every other society. Right now we have sex, alcohol, and drugs in middle schools. And our kids don't realize we never had that before. And it wasn't like a strict, you can't do anything life. It was free. We could go out and play in the street. till the street lights came on and no one was abducting us. No one was taking us away.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I walked to school by myself at age 5 to kindergarten. A half mile. And crossed a big street in the middle of the city. Walked down there by myself. Whoa. The discipline that we have, the accountability for our behavior, and the center of God. I grew up with billboards that said, the family that prays together stays together. My family prayed together. My father was a former Marine law enforcement officer. And he made us pray. In the beginning, you don't like it. What am I praying for? Then you start understanding. You want God, the supreme being, to be over you and your household. You want him to help you make decisions. Life decisions like, where do I go to school? What is my career field? Who do I make a lifetime commitment to? We have so many bad decisions made because we made them with that broken thinker, that broken feeler, and that broken walker, instead of the powerful Spirit of God. An example, Drew has been working as a contractor. He's been overseas for quite some time, and he was making some plans to sell his house here and live over there for a while and come back and forth and whatever. And then one email changes it all. Oh, we're sorry, we're changing companies, we've changed stuff, and we don't have your position anymore. You're done. Oh, okay. Well, that's going to make some big decisions to come up about everything. And he is going to be on his knees with his wife saying, okay, what is next? What do you want next? And God has promised to provide. He will do it. And these are the principles that we were teaching our children. We forgot this. It's gone away. James Madison, the 4th president of the United States, said that our country staked the whole idea of self-government, meaning we get to choose our leaders. Vladimir Putin over in Russia, he's just set it up that he's going to be the leader until like 2035 or something. Down there in Venezuela, when they voted for that president, 100% of the votes went for that president. Yeah, right. In other countries, you don't vote for them, you're dead or in jail. I mean, no, we get to choose our leaders. We need to be awake and alert. Who are we choosing? Oh my gosh, don't choose them on their personality. What are they going to do? What is their background? What is their skill set? Our young people vote on someone. I like their hair. Why? I like how they talk. But what's their skill set? What's their ability? Oh my gosh. But anyways, James Madison said, the whole idea of self-government depends on the ability of us to control ourselves. Some people are angry about something. What are they doing? They're smashing windows. They're going in. They're looting. They're stealing. That's no way to get your ideas across. You're just taking advantage of the situation. This is ridiculous. God would never lead you to break one window. God would never lead you just to walk up and smack someone in the head, which you see on the news all the time. He said we have to have the ability to control ourselves, to sustain ourselves according to the 10 Commandments of God. Patrick Henry, a patriot that some of you may or may not have heard of, and one of the founding fathers of our nation, said, this great nation was founded not by religionists, but by Christians. Not on religions, but on the gospel of Jesus Christ. These are the founding fathers, and yet that's not taught to our kids. And yet you don't have to change, if that's not where you are, but don't throw away who we are and how we founded. That'd be like Brian, someone coming along and saying, no, I started your company. What? That's a lie. Who started your company? What are your principles for hiring? What are your principles for your workers? That's what you've set up. And to have someone come along and just throw it away and no one ever check and see, you can't go by what you see on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram as some little headline. Is it even true? Golly, we have so much going on. Every session of Congress begins with prayer by a paid preacher who's considered the minister for the Congress. And we've paid that salary since 1777. I don't have any problem with that. John Jay, the very first Supreme Court justice, said Americans should select and prefer Christians as their rulers. Now, some people are going to come against that. I'm just saying we need to look at who we are and what we're doing. The Christian principle doesn't say you have to be a Christian. It talks about don't lie. It talks about integrity first, sexual purity, sobriety, service before self, and excellence in all you do. You can be a bloody atheist and still do that. You won't do it very well if you don't have God's Spirit in there, but hey, help yourself. How then have we gotten to this point that everything we've done for over 245 years in this country is somehow wrong and unconstitutional? I believe there's an answer to that. Edmund Burke said it back in the 1700s. He said, all that's needed for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. When he says men, he's not talking about male. He's talking about humans. Good people to do nothing. I want to just take a little short, quick trip, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, just a little review for us to understand the basis of what I'm talking about. And I have some scripture that show you what God said that what we have. I gave you a handout, and it's the 10 things that we can do. But I wanted to talk about, in the start of our nation's discovery, even though some of the European merchants took advantage of the Indian lands and the people that were here, many Christians didn't. Many Christians, and up north, we have proof of that. There's contracts that were done. There were things that were signed. They're up in the museums where the Christians paid for their land in the original colonies. But see, the culture was different. When you owned something in England, you put a fence around your yard. But over here, everyone shared the land. Well, they didn't understand that. They weren't doing that to keep someone out. They were doing that because their culture said if it's your land, you put a fence around it. That keeps out the bears. That keeps out anyone that wants to take something that's yours. So we had a lot of little cultural differences. But many of them were able to work it out. Slavery took over the South. Like I said, back in the early days of every country, when you needed workers, you bought them. Some people treated those workers like family, but most of them treated them terribly. Just workers, laborers, terrible conditions. And this happened in the South, not the North. And the reason it was prevalent in the South is because they had huge plantations. Up north, they just had smaller farms. And they had their own family. They had big families back then, 12, 14 kids. So they kind of produced their own workers. So they had small farms. They didn't have a need for all of that kind of stuff. So, but down in the South, they did. They bought slaves. We fought our first and only civil war to end it. Thank you, God. Our only civil war. Some countries are still fighting their 100th civil war. They're still fighting over who's going to control it. We've had one war here in our country, and it was to stop slavery. Over 600,000 white men died to free African slaves. And people are not remembering that. And it was done out of Christian love. This is wrong. Slavery is wrong. And we fought a war to stop it. Would you forget that so soon? And just because the slaves were free didn't mean that they had an easy time of it. Many were not allowed to learn English. Many didn't know how to read. But many were brilliant. They were organizers. They were leaders. My gosh, we had so many people that came up from that hardship. They actually became legislators. They worked as lawyers. They worked as owners of businesses. Are there still stupid people in our country? Yeah. They don't like you cussing your color. Like I said, walk past them. They're the stupid ones, not you. But we have put so much to allow these freedoms. And to slap it back in our face and say, we don't, we have. In the early years of the Industrial Revolution, that's the end of the 1800s and the early 1900s, there were child labor abuses. Children were made to work in factories for like 16 and 18 hours a day, making all sorts of little things with the little metal things and all that stuff that they had back then. No bathrooms, no breaks, no food, no water. We saw that. We put laws up to stop that. And we saw Europe suffering from tyranny. The buildup of Germany and the attacks and everything. We sent our military, our own people, to defend Europe. Twice. World War I, World War II. Golly. We had hundreds of thousands of our own young men and women die over there, fighting over there to help them, to free them, because we love freedom so much. We wanted it for them. Hitler wanted total control. Well, that didn't work out. He was defeated. And as communism spread to the Far East and Eastern Europe, we tried to stop it. We stopped it in South Korea. We drew a line there. North Korea still is communist, but South Korea is free. It didn't work in Vietnam. North Vietnam was communist, invaded the South just like they did in Korea, but we didn't draw a line there. I don't. It just didn't work out. They were losing the principles of freedom and fighting to the end to make sure that you have that. Korea was successful because, like I said, they drew a line. And Vietnam, that ripped the soul out of America. And I believe back then, in the 70s, it was the beginning of good men doing nothing. In 1979, in Iran, the U.S. Embassy hostages were taken. You're too young to know that. I know that.
I know too.
Yeah, you know it too. We did nothing. In 1983, Beirut, Lebanon, the U.S. Embassy was attacked. We did nothing. One of my former neighbors, her son, was annihilated with bad injuries in that bombing, and to this day still is paralyzed, can't walk, has all sorts of problems and troubles. In 1983, that Marine barracks bombing, we did nothing. In 1988, Lockerbie, Scotland, a Pan Am flight to New York was blown up. We did nothing. In 1993, the first World Trade Center bombing, we did nothing. They actually bombed the parking garage area, trying to blow up the World Trade Center first time around. We did nothing. In 1996, Iran, Saudi Arabia, the Khobar Towers military complex bombing, we did nothing. In 1998, Nairobi, Kenya U.S. Embassy bombing, we did nothing. You see, our country used to do something. It used to stand up and say, you need to be free. The bullies can't come in and attack you. We will go help you. We got soft. 1998, the Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, the U.S. Embassy bomb. We did nothing. Pre-election 2000, in Aden, Yemen, the USS Cole bombing. We did nothing. And then September 11th, 2001, the World Trade Center and the Pentagon attacks. And that plane that went into the ground in Pennsylvania, that was headed for the Capitol. Finally, at that point, we had a nation that stood up and sent some troops over to the Middle East where all these people started this garbage. Many detractors said our actions were wrong and unnecessary, etc. That's up to you. I'm not going there today. The point I'm trying to make is that evil will triumph if good men do nothing. That's the point I'm making. All this continued. Bombings and attacks on the U.S., attacks on our embassies, attacks, killings, all this stuff. So if good men do nothing? So where are we morally today? In 1962, the Supreme Court struck down school prayer in public school. Do you know what that school prayer was? Almighty God, we acknowledge our dependence upon you and beg your blessing upon us, our parents, our teachers, and our country. That's all it was. I know. I was in public school. We used to say it. We did nothing. Where were the Christian parents then? Where was the uproar? One kid didn't believe in God and said he was offended by a prayer. So 100 million kids had to not pray. What the heck? That's not freedom, that's oppression. 1963, the Supreme Court banned Bible reading in the schools. We did nothing. 1965, a lower court decided if a student prays over his lunch, it's unconstitutional for him to pray aloud. We did nothing. 1973, the Supreme Court said abortion is legal and not a crime. We did nothing. I don't think it should be a crime. I think you should deal with it. 1976, a lower court decided it's unconstitutional for a board of education to use or refer to the word God in any of its official writings. We did nothing. 1980, the Supreme Court removed the Ten Commandments from the view of students in public schools because it might offend them. It might turn their mind towards something else. In 1981, a lower court declared that freedom of speech in the press is guaranteed to students unless the topic is religious, at which time the speech becomes unconstitutional, and we did nothing. 1986, the Supreme Court removed all benedictions and invocations from public school activities. We did nothing. Some people are standing up, though. The students are going, no, I'm going to say a prayer. They just say a prayer like before a football game. They just do it. Now that you can do. You have the freedom to do that. And then it goes on and on and on. And then in 2004, the Supreme Court in Massachusetts says it's legal for homosexual marriage in their state. We did nothing. I'm not coming against those that have a different sexual persuasion or a different sexual orientation. I'm not coming against them. I'm just saying, God said that is not the correct way to live. That's all I'm saying. I will work with you, love you, I don't care what you're into or whatever. But I'm not going to celebrate it with you because God said it's not of Him. So this whole perspective is so incorrect. You do have freedom before God to choose, but I'm just telling you, those things and the change of the family and the change of the sexual orientation, I'm just saying it's not of God. The broken thinker, broken wanderer, and broken feeler are at play. But that's not my business. That's yours. You work it out with Him. You don't have to work it out with me. I'll work with you. I'll do whatever needs to be done. But don't ask me to participate in those activities if they go against the things of God. That's all I'm saying. And the Christian viewpoint is truly to love everyone. But my acceptance of you is not an endorsement, an okay for your behavior. And some people don't like that. They call me a hater and a bigot, and I'm not. Anyone who knows me knows I will work with anybody. I love people. I care for people. As a chaplain in the military, Wiccans would come in. One of my chaplain assistants in the military was an atheist. I didn't come against her. I couldn't ask her to pray. I mean, I had to look at the reality of things. Couldn't ask her to pray with someone, but she helped me get a Humvee for transportation. She helped me set up, for my church services and stuff. Everything was fine. This is what I'm talking about. We're teaching our children the wrong way. Teach the principles of God, and if anyone is choosing to go against them, that's their business with God. That's not your place to put fingers on them. We need to love and care for everyone, but loving and caring for someone doesn't mean we agree with what they're doing. That's all I'm saying, people. So fast forward today, marriage is being redefined, and illicit drugs are illegal. It goes on, and evil isn't going to stop unless you make a stand up. You can't stop it in other people, but you can stop it in you. You can require it in your family to be God in the center, teaching His ways and doing those things. So how much longer are we going to let evil triumph by doing nothing? This is a Christian country. And we honor the one God who sent Himself in the form of Jesus Christ to rescue us from our life that's destined to sin in all the wrong ways. It's destined to darkness. Our nation was supposed to be a beacon of light, presenting the principles of Christ in the family, education, business, medicine, science, government, every part of our society. And in the years it did that, there still were a few jerks, but in the years that we did that, we came together. We were humming, we were building, we were doing the right things. Things were going good at home and family with a few odd duck things. Now everything's changed, all in the middle. Social media has caused a destruction of who we are. With the click on a phone or a computer, our young girls and boys can get into pornography. You want to open up the gates of hell in your life, get into that. We need to make sure that we are together, as God said. Nothing while evil triumphs, or will you be an American who stands up and does something for good? You're not responsible for the whole country. In the military, we call it AOR, Area of Responsibility. You're responsible for that in your home, in your business. You're not responsible for what your neighbors do, but you're responsible for that good life, for that right life, for doing things, for forgiving, for not being angry and miserable, and not stealing, and all the rest of that. That's what we're responsible for our area of responsibility. And sometimes by doing it right, you'll be the example to someone else who's never seen right. If someone comes along in your business and says, hey, listen, sign this form, and it's not really true, but it's going to get us some more money in the business. You need to be willing to lose money in your business to maintain integrity. You need to be willing to do it right and correct. Pastor Mark has a business. He's got a very successful landscaping business, and he has for 35 years in this community. That man, I've seen it, I used to work for him for 8 years. That man has lost money maintaining honesty. But God hasn't left him out in the cold. He is mightily blessed. Mm-hmm. He's mightily blessed in his home, in his business, with his children, with his grandchildren. God blesses us in so many amazing ways. And we go for a couple of measly bucks on the side, done illegally, done wrong, done improperly, just for those few bucks. Whereas you stand strong before God, He'll bless you in so many other ways. Well, do you get any money from God? Yeah? Well, stopped you. You didn't have to pay for a car repair because it didn't happen. You didn't have to pay for a hospital bill because you didn't go. There's many ways God gives us money by stopping it from going out of our wallet. This is a great God that we serve. So I hope that you are going to be an American who stands up and does something good so we can flourish in our country again. But be warned, if you do stand up, I don't mean being some religious nutcase. I'm not talking about that. I mean being active and vocal in your family and your local community. You'll probably be called a hater and a bigot. And some people go, oh, I don't want to say anything again. No. If it's truth, you may speak it. God tells us the way to live. And it's okay to say, I'm not doing that because it's wrong. You do what you got to do, but I'm not doing it. And the more we do that, the more that's going to spread. Because our young people are hungry for some edges. They don't know where the edge is. And I've said this many, many times. Every one of the bridges in our country has a barrier on it. And it's not to stop you from having fun, and that barrier isn't to stop you from traveling. It's to stop you from going over the bridge to your death. God's moral barriers do the same thing. It's not to stop you from having fun. It's to stop you from destruction. The problems that we've created for ourselves by doing nothing can be solved. This unfriendly stand taken against God and Christians has to be corrected. The moral teachings have to be restored and made available to people in the public arena. I might not live to see it, but we have a whole bunch of young people that if they know what is right and they do what is right, it's going to change their lives and it's going to keep things free in this country. A country not worth living in is a country not worth dying for. This is a great country with great people. Our Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, our history, character, and overall morality are the finest doctrines, dogmas, and demeanor in the world. It doesn't mean that every person is, but the principles are. And if we stick by them, we're going to be good. But I see them eroding into spineless, unbounded, anything-goes mentality. Our blessings have spoiled some of our generations. I see young people sitting in Starbucks drinking a $5 coffee on their iPad and their iPhone, complaining how bad it is in this country. I'm going, sweet Lord. 2/3 of the world doesn't even have clean running water, flushing toilets, their own housing, clothing, food. Oh my gosh. People are looking at what they don't have because of all the advertisements, instead of what they do have. If you are healthy and in rags, you can still bless the Lord. Whoa! Go look at our young Sarah in a wheelchair. She's age 35, from 9 months old when she had meningitis. She can't talk, she can't speak. She can't move, she can't do anything. She has to be, she's like somebody with cerebral palsy. She's like, 35 years in a wheelchair. You need to be thanking God you can get up, you can walk, you can run. Instead of, oh, I don't have this game, and I don't have that phone, and I don't have this. My father won't let me get Netflix. Who cares? Did you eat about 5 times today? Do you have clothes? Do you have more than one set of shoes? More than one set of shirts and skirts and everything else? Golly. As I said, God has blessed this nation for a reason. To share and to show His blessings to a sin-sick world. We are to be a city on a hill. Now, will you join with me today in making a covenant with God to keep this nation morally healthy and spiritually strong? I don't want to stand by any longer and have evil flourish. I want us to do something. I gave you 10 things. I'm going to quickly run over them. First, pray for our leaders. And pray that God will root out the wicked from office and raise up righteous individuals to replace them. In 1 Timothy 2:1 it says, first of all, then, I urge that entreaties and prayers, petitions and thanksgivings be made on behalf of all men. So number 1 is what you need to do is become active in praying for leaders and officials at all levels. Number 2, voluntary prayer in school is severely restricted, but that doesn't mean that your kids can't be trained to pray every day. Pray with your kids each day before they go to school. Pray specifically for students, for families, for schools in the nation. Train your children up in the importance of prayer. Not just, oh, bless me today, amen. I'm talking about from your heart. Ask God within. God, teach me. God, I ask you to come into my heart. I ask you to make my decisions. I ask you to give me warnings. I ask you to tap me on the shoulder. Keep me from evil. Open my eyes. Let me see what is right and help me to do it. That's the kind of prayer I'm talking about. Have God in prayer as the center of your family. And in 1 Thessalonians 5:17 it says, pray without ceasing. Wow, that means all the time. I pray when I'm doing the dishes. I say, oh, thank you, God. I'll be praying. I'll go, God, I thank you for warm water. I have soap that mixes with the warm water that gets rid of grease. I thank you, God, that I had grease because I was able to cook something. It just goes on. It becomes an awareness. You get an attitude of gratitude. That makes you a healthier, happier worker, a healthier, happier mom or dad or kid. It's absolutely amazing how the things of God work. And in Colossians 4:2, devote yourself to prayer. So become active in praying with your children. Number 3, the first casualty of war is the truth. And that is true in the war for the minds and hearts of our children. Currently, our kids, they get little accurate information from their schools and the public forum on the Christian role and the Christian portions of our country and how we were started. They don't. Many of our students are being told, oh, the United States is bad, terribly, systemically racist. Well, if it was, stop and think of that. If it was systemically racist, we would never have had a black president for 2 terms. We wouldn't have black generals. We wouldn't have Spanish leaders. You know what I'm saying? So if our country is racist, we wouldn't be able to have and do the things we do. So I'm going, wait a minute. There's systemically stupid people, but not the system. So pray for the stupid people too. But anyway, help your children get the correct information. There's no mention in the original documents of our country of a separation of church and state. There is no law about separating church from state. That was done in response to a question about Congregationalist denomination versus Anglican or something denomination. And the answer was that the state is not going to determine what religion you can do. That's all it said. It didn't say that the state couldn't be involved in Christianity. It just said it wasn't going to do what they did in England. They weren't going to tell you what kind of Christian that you were going to be. The doctrine of separation is hostile toward Christianity. It says, okay, you can't pray in school. No, that's not one of our goals. It's unfounded and it's wrong. So even if you don't have kids, and educate those around you. Become active in teaching the truth to others. Number 4, the realm of politics used to be dominated by Christians. There was individual prayer in the offices. Before they voted, before they came up with a bill, prayer, 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 God, your wisdom, God, your wisdom. So there were an awful politics, unfortunately, eliminated religious activities in the public acknowledgement of God. And because they eliminated it, they can restore it. We've been led to believe that Christianity is a minority vote. It's not. There's about 65 to 70, in 2019 statistics, 2019, just a couple years ago, 65 to 75% of our nation checked the box saying that they were Christian. And most of them approved of a voluntary prayer in school. Voluntary, you didn't have to pray it, but don't remove it for those that want it. If you don't want to, that's fine too. And they oppose abortion and special rights for alternate marriage and all this kind of stuff. They oppose it. They're not coming against the person. They just don't want that part of what we're doing. You go do what you're going to do. That's your business. We can believe a lie and do nothing, or we can use the actual political system and vote. Vote for the people that have the moral code that is right and correct. If you want different national policies, it's up to us, not to them. This is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And I see us kind of evolving into just a few elites at the top. And if we lose the middle class, that's us. And nothing but the peasants at the bottom? No, I don't want that. And all the people up here talking about, oh, tax the rich, and you got to do your... They're all millionaires. They got $3 and scenes, and they're telling you to get an electric car. And they're blowing out more CO2 with one trip to their lunches in France. People, open up your eyes. Pray. Listen to the Lord. We have to understand that many men and women who stand for returning to godly principles, they're elected. I see more and more. I see a lot of our military just tired of things being stupid in our country. So they're running. So go find out. Godly candidates are out there. So the reason they're defeated is because Christians aren't voting. Oh, no sense. Might as stay home. No. You need to do your research. You need to find out what's going on. In Exodus 18:21, it says to let it be impressed on your mind that God commands you to choose as rulers just and godly, good men who will rule in the fear of God. Charles Finney, way back in the 1800s, said, God cannot sustain this free and blessed country which we love and pray for unless the church takes its rightful ground. That's really true. Christians are a minority, we're a majority. So I really encourage us, don't let the values of a very few, 10%, take over the things that we have as Christians. We need to stand up. Your vote does count. So number 4 there, become an active voter. God's established that we have a responsibility to choose these godly leaders. And skip on down there to Matthew 7:16-20. He says, rotten trees bear rotten fruit. That's true. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down, thrown into the fire. So you don't need to look at just how somebody's hair looks or how they dress or what they're doing if you're going to vote for them. Find out what their moral stand is, their religious roots. Are they doing good things in private? Because if they got bad fruit in private, they're going to have bad fruit when they're in office. Become active in investigating and in going around and publicizing. I've been involved in helping out at the election, where people come in to vote, check their ID, stuff like that. Volunteer. Put your time in there. And then if God has established that we have a responsibility to choose these godly leaders, you have to become active in doing that. And number 6, become active in helping the godly candidates get elected. And I put something in here and I said, learn to look beyond your political party. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, politics. I'm not going to get into that. You might have been born a Democrat or a Republican, or an independent. That doesn't matter because you've been reborn in Christ. That makes you a Christocrat and a Christian. So that's how we are. That's who we are. Become active in helping godly leaders. You can become active in communicating with your elected officials. Call them, write them. I've got a stack of letters and comments that I've written into them. Talk about what you want to see in the schools, what you want to see in the community, what you want to see in the laws. Spread the truth. In Song of Solomon, it says, 8:13, your companions hearken to your voice, so speak. Talk about truth. Become informed. Spread that information to others. Read the scriptures. Get involved in the Bible. And finally, we have to develop an attitude that's patient, long-suffering, unswayable, and steadfast in doing all of this in the Lord. Avoid the short-term microwave mentality that's sweeping the nation. Change takes time. Anyone who's raising a family understands that. You see them at 2, they're different than they are at 12 and they are 22. You have a lot to do with infusing them with godly principles and trusting God to convict their hearts more than what your words are saying. Trust God to work with them and change them. In Galatians 6:9. So then, while we have opportunity, let us do good to all men, and especially to those who are of the household of faith, so that develop a long-term and resolute spirit. And it's fitting to end with something that Ronald Reagan, who was a president some years ago, said, that it expresses the sentiments that I feel on this 4th of July celebration. The time has come to turn to God and reassert our trust in Him for the healing of America. Our country is in need of and ready for a spiritual renewal. May we be instrumental in keeping that dream alive and continue as one nation under God. God bless you. Happy 4th of July, and God bless America. Amen and amen.